Hello and welcome to the Final Frontiersmen, a YouTube channel about all things Trek with a heavy focus on the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game. I am Bill, and today we are looking at the second of the 4 Quadrant Sourcebooks, the Alpha Quadrant. Last time we did Beta Quadrant because that includes the big 3, Federation, Klingon Empire, and Romulan Empire. This time we are looking at the companion piece, the Alpha Quadrant, because this is going to finish off, along with the Beta Quadrant, that traditional TOS, TNG, DS9 era of Star Trek. So if you're interested in running the traditional looking campaign of Star Trek, the Beta Quadrant and the Alpha Quadrant Sourcebook are going to be probably the 2 biggest resource materials you have for that outside of the core rulebook. So as usual with our reviews, we have the alert system as they may appear. There is the yellow alert for things that you should pay attention to and might be of some interest, the red alert for the things we think are really great, and the black alert for the things that are groundbreaking and just game-changing. So without further ado, let me jump into the small window and let's get into this, the Alpha Quadrant Sourcebook. We're going to jump first to Chapter 2. First thing to point out about this book, again, when the earliest releases in the line, or earlier releases, I should say, in the line, the original core rulebook, as you may know, it started with a TNG, late TNG, early Deep Space Nine setting. This book was the first one, I believe, to push that timeline a little bit further. This goes to 2372, which is about the 4th season of Deep Space Nine. That's when the Klingons come into the picture, the Federation Klingon War of that time, that short one before the Dominion War kicked off. So it's that time period, and that is the lens that the content of this book is going to be seen through. So looking at Chapter 2, Chapter 2 is the Alpha Quadrant chapter. This is going to go through the history and the surrounding events that concern with everything following the discovery of the Bajoran wormhole at the beginning of Deep Space Nine, the Klingons' withdrawal from the Khitomer Accords, details on the Dominion as they are appearing at this time, and what we know at the time with the Founders, the Vorta, the Jem'Hadar, and so on. This is going to go into a lot of information, again, about the Klingon, Cardassian, and Romulan relations at this point in time. So there's a lot of flavor in this chapter for this time period, and if you're set before this time period, you can use this information of what everything is leading up to, and if you're set after this time period, that's going to inform where the story has come from. So again, great resource. Let's go into the next section, 2.20. This is Federation Worlds. Earth was included in the Beta Quadrant because that was the bulk of the Federation, but here we get details on a few of the other worlds, including things like the physiology, the political structure on the planet, legal system, culture, and a lot more detail for many worlds, some more than others. The 4 worlds that it goes into detail on in this section are Beta Z, Denobula, Teller Prime, and Trill. But the big one, Bajor, gets a giant section all to itself. So I'm giving this a red alert because you get a lot of good detail about Bajor. And with that, of course, it's going to talk about what was Bajor like before the Cardassian occupation, what was it like during the occupation, and what is it like now post-Cardassian occupation. Goes into the religion, which, as you know, is a huge part of the Bajoran people, military, spirituality, prophets, the Pa race, more. There's even a whole section about the traditional earrings. I forget how you pronounce it. It's like the Deja Pa. Probably wrong on it. But there's a whole section explaining those earrings and their importance. And this section also includes we got a real red alert going on out here. Stats for Deep Space Nine itself. So if you want to use Deep Space Nine in your game, in your campaign, here are the official stats for it in this book. I'm going to continue the red alert into the next section, which is about the Cardassian Union, because it's giving pretty much that same level of detail that we just had with Bajor. You're getting to know information about the Cardassian Union and Cardassian society, and the entirety about the occupation from their point of view. And of course, Cardassians are known for their intrigue and espionage, so the Obsidian Order gets a fair amount said about them here, talks about the Cardassian military, and so on. Of course, when you're talking about the occupation, the war, Bajor, and Cardassia, the Maquis play a huge role, and you'll find details about the Maquis in this section as well. It goes into Cardassian worlds, just like we had the Federation worlds. The Cardassian worlds are Cardassia Prime and just some other planets that would hold some interest, but I think the key one that players are going to be interested in is finding out about Cardassia Prime. So this section with Bajor and Cardassia, I think those are the big highlights of this book. You get a lot of good information for the other things, but this is the most detail for the two key worlds in this section that did not appear in the Beta Quadrant Sourcebook. So stand down, red alert. Next, after Cardassians, we go into a few of the other polities. First, we start with the Ferengi Alliance, and you'll get details about their rules of acquisition, the 5 stages of acquisition, and also Ferengi worlds, such as Ferenginar and Balankar, I believe is the second one. Aside from that, the next few polities, they get some detail, but it's nowhere near the level as the other ones. But if you're looking for information on the Tzenkethi, oh my god, it's a hard thing to say, Coalition, the Breen Confederacy, and the Tholian Assembly, they all have a little write-up in this part as well. Chapter 3. It's a species of the Alpha Quadrant, and this includes some new life path options. I'm not going to give this a yellow alert because a lot of this stuff you can get elsewhere, like in the online character generator, and we've seen this stuff by this point. But at the time, it was brand new, and what it gave you was the Arbazan, the Arcarians, the Aurelians, Caitians, Cardassians, Idosians, Ferengi, Grazerite, Halians, Ktarians, and the Zeranites. So those are the species that you could choose to play as introduced in this book. But again, online character creator will have all this information in there for you already. Chapter 4, Starships of the Alpha Quadrant. We already got the big ones of the Federation in the core rulebook. So again, that does not appear here, just like in the Beta Quadrant Sourcebook. Instead, this focuses on the previously mentioned polities, so Cardassian ships. It has the Hideki-class corvette and the Keldon-class heavy cruiser. Ferengi starships and free traders give the Acquisition-class scouts and the Ules-class mobile cruiser. The Breen starships, you get the Chel Greet and the Begant? I don't know. Besgant? Not sure what that is. So there's a sidebar, especially in this part, about Breen weapons. If you've seen Deep Space Nine, you know Breen have a bit of special weaponry, and there's a whole sidebar on how to use them in this section. Talarian starships give the Q-Mare, if that's the way you say it, Talarian bulk freighter, and the last is Tholian starships, which have the Spinner and the Weaver, which makes sense with their webs. And last is Chapter 5. In Chapter 5, I am going to pop a yellow alert on this one. Similar, or just exactly, I should say, to the Beta Quadrant. This has encounter seeds for story ideas, which in the Beta Quadrant review, I said were kind of like the prototype mission briefs that appeared later down the line in Star Trek Adventures. They are included here as well, which give you ideas on the kind of adventures you could run in these areas that appear in this section. So some of the areas are the demilitarized zone. I cannot speak tonight. My lord. Demilitarized zone, the Badlands, which includes the Maquis home, and a whole campaign sidebar for having a Maquis campaign, which I thought was very interesting. It's also, I found reading it now at this point in the game's history, after the Federation Klingon War Tactical Campaign book has been released, this part is ripe for adapting into a tactical campaign. So if you're interested, if you love what Al Spader did with the tactical campaign and you want to adapt it into different types of battles, different types of wars, I suggest looking at this part here, the encounter seeds for the Maquis. And also there's encounter seeds for Federation Border as well. Stats for some adversaries that appear in here, some key adversaries that I think a lot of you will recognize the names of. Gaul Evêque appears, Legate Damar, Gaul Ducat, Ro Laren, Michael Eddington, and Thomas Riker. Some heavy hitters here in the NPC category. So if you want the official stats on those characters, you get them in this book in the Alpha Quadrant. And that's it. It's a quick rundown of what's appeared in there. That is the Alpha Quadrant. So stand down, yellow alert, and I will come back to the big window. Again, we're now at the late stage of first edition, but all of these first edition books are going to still be useful for second edition, and they still serve as a great resource for the content, the theme, and the background of this whole Star Trek universe that you are going to play in. I highly recommend Beta Quadrant and Alpha Quadrant as companion pieces for basically fleshing out and putting up the proper decorations of what everyone imagines when they look at Star Trek, when they think of Star Trek. Deep Space Nine, it delves into a lot in the Gamma Quadrant. Voyager, of course, is almost exclusively in the Delta Quadrant, but the majority of TOS, TNG, and DS9 are here in Alpha Quadrant and Beta Quadrant. These two books go together. I highly recommend them, even at this point in the game. Like I said, this sets a time frame of 2372, but at the same time, it's still usable, adaptable for any time setting that you want, and the information you get on Cardassia and Bajor itself is well worth the cover price. It's worth a read. Highly recommend this book to be on the shelf, and that's it. That is the Alpha Quadrant. We have 2 more Quadrant books to go, and then we're pretty much done with first edition of Star Trek Adventures, and we're literally almost done with it because second edition's coming soon. But thank you for watching as always. If I missed anything or if you have any questions, please write a comment. I always enjoy talking with everyone who takes the time to talk with me. But until next time, as always, stay safe out there, my friends. Peace and long life. I'll see you next time.